It was a cold October morning in Baltimore when the first witness saw him. A man collapsed in the gutter outside Ryan's tavern. No hat, no shelter from the biting wind. His eyes wide but unfocused, staring at something only he could see. His clothes were not his own, a cheap, ill-fitting suit, mud on his hands, and he was whispering nonsense, or maybe a code. That man was Edgar Allan Poe. 4 days later, he would be dead, and no one, not doctors, not friends, not historians, would ever fully explain why. Poe's life had always been a series of shadows. Born in 1809, the son of traveling actors who left him before he could even walk. His father vanished, his mother died of tuberculosis. He was taken in by a wealthy merchant, John Allan, but never truly adopted. Always an outsider in his own home. He grew into a boy who read in silence, a young man who gambled away his tuition, a soldier who falsified his age, claiming to be 22 when he was only 18. In hopes of securing better pay and a quicker rise in rank, a poet who could not pay the rent, and who, in the bitterest winters, fed the fire with pieces of his own furniture, watching the legs of chairs and splinters of desks vanish into the flames, just to keep the cold from claiming the room. He became a husband, against the norms even of his own time, to a girl who had once looked up at him as a child. In 1836, when he was 27 and desperately poor, he married his cousin Virginia Clem, a fragile 13-year-old. It was a union rooted more in devotion than propriety. Still, she became his heart's anchor, until, like so many before her, disease ripped her away, and the loss followed him into every dark corner of his work. He filled the world with ravens that spoke, hearts that would not stop beating, and houses that seemed to breathe with their own decay. Stories where the mind unraveled in darkness, and death walked just a step behind. But Poe was not just writing about horror, he was writing about himself. Alcohol haunted him, poverty stalked him, loss was his only constant companion. By 1849, at 40 years old, he had buried his wife, his brother, and most of his family. His career had brought him fame, but not fortune. And yet, he was planning a new life. In September of that year, Poe left Richmond, Virginia, to travel north to New York. He had two goals: to edit a new literary magazine and to marry a woman from his past, his childhood sweetheart, Sarah Elmira Royster. His friends said he was sober, in good health, even optimistic. They could not have known that within weeks he would be found dying in the streets, calling out a name that no one could place. What happened in those missing days has become one of America's great literary mysteries. We know that on September 27th, Poe boarded a steamer to Baltimore. He carried a walking stick with a hidden sword, a small trunk of belongings, and a letter of introduction. And then he vanished from the record. For 5 days there is nothing. No letters, no sightings, no trace. On October 3rd, Joseph Walker, a young printer, found Poe slumped outside the tavern. Walker later wrote,
"He is in great distress and in need of immediate assistance."
Poe was taken to Washington College Hospital. There he drifted in and out of consciousness, speaking in fragments. The only clear thing he said was the name
Reynolds.
repeated over and over until it became a whisper and then nothing. No one ever discovered who Reynolds was. The attending physician, Dr. John Moran, noted that Poe was feeble and tremulous, his mind wandering. When asked if he had been drinking, Moran said Poe appeared not to be drunk, but poisoned. Whether by alcohol, opium, or something else entirely, he would not say. Poe's final words, as Moran later claimed, were,
Lord, help my poor soul.
and then silence. October 7th, 1849. Poe was gone. He was buried the next day in a small, unremarkable grave. Only a handful attended. No autopsy was performed. No death certificate survives. What killed him? Theories have multiplied for more than 170 years, each stranger than the last. The first whisper of blame fell, as it always had, on the bottle. Poe's relationship with drink was no ordinary vice. It was a trap door. Even a taste could drag him under. Witnesses claimed they had seen him sober and strong in the weeks before. Others swore he had slipped back into the old abyss during the journey. In this story, even the truth seemed to stagger. Dr. Moran's memories, written down decades after the fact, only tangled the knot tighter. In one telling, Poe raved in a drunken fever. In another, his mind was clear, untouched by liquor. The doctor's pen seemed to change the man each time it touched the page. And then came another stranger possibility, a word whispered in the back rooms of Baltimore politics: cooping. Baltimore in the 1840s was infamous for a form of election fraud where gangs kidnapped men off the street, forced them to drink, changed their clothes, and made them vote multiple times for a chosen candidate. The borrowed clothes, the haze in his eyes, the place where he collapsed. Each detail fit the pattern as if he had been pulled straight from the shadows of a cooping chamber. If he resisted, he might have been beaten, poisoned perhaps, abandoned to the gutter like refuse. And yet, not a single scrap of evidence places him inside a polling station that day. Other theories read like the plot of one of his own tales. Rabies, suggested by a modern doctor after reviewing the symptoms. Carbon monoxide poisoning from coal gas lamps. A brain tumor. After his body was exhumed decades later, witnesses claimed to see a strange, hardened mass in his skull. Murder by enemies in the literary world. Even suicide, though most who knew him rejected it. And then there is the simplest, most unsettling possibility, that Poe himself had no idea what was happening to him, that his final days were not a mystery to be solved, but a slow descent into confusion, fear, and darkness, without reason, without pattern, without closure. In the years after his death, his reputation was shaped by one man, Rufus Griswold, a literary rival who published a biography filled with lies, painting Poe as a madman, a drunkard, a villain. For decades, the public knew Poe only through that distorted lens. His works were admired, but his life was a cautionary tale. Only later did scholars begin to strip away the lies, revealing a man more complex, more tragic, and far more human than the caricature Griswold had left behind. Today, Poe's grave in Baltimore draws thousands each year. Roses, coins, and notes are left in tribute, but none compare to the legend of the Poe toaster. From the late 1940s until 2009, a figure dressed in black, face hidden by a white scarf, appeared at the grave every January 19th, Poe's birthday. He would raise a glass of cognac in silent toast, leave 3 roses, and vanish before dawn. In 1993, he left a note. The torch will be passed, and for a time it was, possibly by his own son. But after 2009, the visits stopped. Echoes came and went, yet the true identity of the original Poe toaster remains unknown. Like Poe himself, he arrived shrouded in mystery and disappeared the same way. And maybe that's fitting. Poe gave us narrators who could not be trusted, plots that twisted in on themselves, endings that left us staring into the dark, wondering. In life, he wrote of premature burials and the terror of not knowing when the final moment would come. In death, he became one of his own stories. A man found in the street, whispering a name, then gone before anyone could ask the right questions. The wind still moves through the cemetery where he lies. The city has changed, but the street where they found him still stands, worn and crooked. And if you go there on an autumn night, when the fog comes low and the gaslight burns weak, you might hear the echo of a voice, a whisper in the shadows.
Reynolds, Reynolds.
And then, nothing.